Hey everybody, this is Tyson.
And Logan.
And you're listening to Dad Bods and Beards podcast. It's a show that gives you a fresh look on being a father, a husband, and honestly, a man being in today's world.
For people who want to have a good time, laugh, and be uplifted, thanks for subscribing and listening. Now for the show.
He doesn't know. I'm going to do it again like what we did last time.
Oh, yeah.
It's an inside joke unless you've listened to our last podcast, Brian. Here we go.
Dad Bods and Beards.
Oh, come on. You didn't. Yeah. I was waiting for it. No. You built it up. And you're like, oh, Brian, I started doing this, and then you didn't even do it. So,
well, because my computer's a little slow right now. But okay. All right. So everyone, I'm Tyson, this Logan, and we have an amazing person here. He is the founder of I.G.Y.6.22. And so I'm going to read a little bit about what his I.G.Y.6.22 is about, and then we will start talking with Brian. So I.G.Y.6.22 was born from an unfortunate reality of a veteran that was fortunately stopped en route to take his life. Luckily, this attempt was thwarted, but this is not the story with a happy ending. The hard work and the lifelong struggles begins. Mental resiliency is the ability to stand strong in the face of stress, strain, struggle, and constant negative pressures. Sadly, we all face times of weakness, isolation, and become vulnerable enough to start circling the drain. We function as a team, or else we fail as a team. Only in the face of our mental health alone. After the unfortunate tale of one of our brothers, I.G.Y.6.22 was born. We actively seek and find those in need and bring them into the community so they don't fight their own demons alone. So I'd like to just formally introduce you to Brian. And so, Brian, after reading your website and about us type of thing and your mission, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and the reasons for starting this charity?
Yeah, I'm a 8-year veteran of the Army. I was a combat engineer. For those that don't know, it's basically infantry with demolition experience. I went to Iraq in 2003, came home in 2005, and I was never really the same. I really struggled getting back into society, integrating with my family. I regret it now, but I look back and I treated my kids like they were my soldiers instead of my children. So just a lot of struggles trying to adapt to civilian life. In October of 2019, I was that unfortunate soul that was on his way up the Ogden Divide to take my truck off the cliff. Got turned around, woke up the next morning with a very bad hangover and decided I was going to start a podcast and reach out to other brothers and sisters that were struggling with mental health. And that introduced me to a lot of my first couple of guests I never knew, met them through the podcast and ended up being great friends with them, and they became members of the board. We had an idea to start a nonprofit and help out our brothers and sisters that are struggling. And now here we are, 2023, and we've now provided them 24 service dogs in the last 2 years.
Wow.
And that's cool. You want to tell us a little bit about what that means and kind of what you do as a charity?
Yeah. So when we first started, we wanted to cast a big net and help everybody that we can. And then we found out real quickly that helping a lot of veterans in other states was very, very hard. So what we started to do is reach out to other organizations. And so if someone was in Indiana and was struggling, we would reach out to motorcycle clubs or VFWs or whoever we could reach out to in that area. And we would put them in contact with that veteran that was struggling and try to help out that way. In doing so, we had an event here at a local restaurant in Utah, and we threw it together in less than a week and a half, and we had such great success that we were just like, oh, wow, this kind of works. And at that time, that's when we found Dog Training Elite. and 4 Paws for Patriots here locally in Utah. And they both volunteered to provide the service dog training with us, getting the dog, paying for a dog or finding a dog, getting a dog donated. And from there, we just put out on social media, hey, if you're struggling, here's a way to help. And a lot of veterans don't know that a service dog can help them, because people think, oh, if you have a service dog, you need to be missing an arm or a leg or have a disease that the dog triggers on. And I myself have a service dog, and it's changed my life. I can get out in public a lot more now, travel on airplanes, stuff I stopped doing after I got home from Iraq. So having a service dog for me has provided me my life back.
So with the service dog, can it be any dog? And then what type of training do they have to go through in order to be a service dog for someone with PTSD or anything like that?
Not so much any dog. We have a lot of people that are trying to get smaller lap dogs, and those work great for emotional support, but we tend to lean towards the labs or Malinois or German Shepherds, kind of bigger dogs, golden doodles or Labrador retrievers. Just they're not known to be aggressive. They're very, very smart, very easy to train. And the training, depending on what organization we go through. So we try to pair the veteran or the first responder to the training that they're going to get. So if they're in Cache County, we have underground kennels up there. If they're in the Ogden area, we have 4 Paws for Patriots. And if they're kind of in the southern area, we have Dog Training Elite. So we kind of work with each of these companies. And the upside to it is, the veteran and first responder is not getting a dog that is fully trained. They're getting a puppy, and they are doing the training with the dog themselves, with the trainers. So that way they build that bond, they build that connection, and they become inseparable. With the exception of one, we have one Navy veteran who is still trying to get out process that our last fundraiser got their dog, and so a family member is now doing the training with that animal until she can get back to Utah.
Okay.
So say it's almost like they do canine officer training, where they get him as a puppy, and the officer trains becoming a canine officer with their new puppy. So it's like you said, like that same thing I've heard guys talk about. You're creating that bond early on, that this is your partner, so the dog understands It's not just you're my owner. Like, no, you're who I work with. You're like your home, your command, you're all that stuff. That's really cool. I like that.
Yeah, I have a coworker in the Air Force, because I work at Hill Air Force Base. He has served several times in the Air Force, and he has severe PTSD. Like whenever there's any fireworks or anything, like he's gone. He goes to Island Park where you can't hear anything, see anything. A lot of things will trigger him and stuff like that. And he has a dog. And I actually was talking to him when we decided to partner up. And he said that it's amazing the instincts that dogs have when you're struggling and when you are suffering. They just know, and they'll come right up to you. They'll go underneath your legs and just comfort you the best way they know how. And he's like, and that's my baby. And he's like, she's helped me so much. And I'm like, that's interesting. And he didn't get it from you. And he just got a puppy just to get a puppy for his kids. And he created this bond with this dog that has helped him out immensely through hard times.
So with me, when I had my dog, I have a German short hair pointer, and she was my dog as a pet. And I just noticed before I got her trained as a service animal that she could pick up when my anxiety was spiking. She would keep getting up on my lap, and it was aggravating me, because I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And then it just started clicking that she could tell that there was a problem. So I reached out to an organization locally, the Malinois Foundation. They set me up with Dog Training Elite, and then they actually trained my dog to pick up on it. So she knows my little triggers. If I start twirling my wedding ring, she comes and she'll break my hands away from each other, just to kind of break my contact. I have a very bad problem when my anxiety spikes that my legs just shake. I just bounce my legs, and she'll put all of her body weight on my leg until I stop. If I'm having a nightmare in the middle of the night, she'll wake up, she jumps on the bed and rests on my stomach until I wake up smoothly and calmly so I don't get startled. So,
That's
and
amazing.
going to Walmart, I've got her trained to where if we're stopped, she'll sit between my legs facing my back to kind of watch my six, or watch my back for those that aren't military. Or if I'm in the aisle just standing there, she'll kind of, and someone comes up close to me, she'll just kind of sidestep to kind of skirt them from getting too close to me one way or the other.
That's amazing,
dude.
I love that.
I got like the chills. That's like the coolest thing ever. I'm super happy for you that you have that. And I can think of, different guys, and men and women that I've met over the years. I'm like, that would have been an amazing help for them had they known that programs like this exist. And then I'm also kind of jealous because I'm like, man, I got 2 little rat dogs and they just lay there all day or bark at me. So like that's so, like I said, I just kind of got the chills of kind of like when you said I got your 6, it just like everything clicked. I'm like, dude, that makes total sense. Like your dogs, these dogs, they've got your back. And and the best part is I've heard this 100 times over, is that this is what correct me if I'm wrong, this is what they love to do. Like they're like these dogs, like they live for this, like they live for helping and like giving aid and taking care of and like being
Right.
that. Yeah, it's their purpose. So it's like they're getting total fulfillment out of this, right?
Yeah. And if anybody knows a German short hair, they are go, go, go. They are 10,000 miles an hour. When she has her service vest on, she is the calmest German short hair you will ever see. As soon as you take that off, she is running as fast as she can. She's got the zoomies. She's going to go up to everybody and be, try to get pet by anybody. Because if she doesn't have her vest on, it's fair game. She's a dog at that point. She's off work. We're home. She can be a dog. In public, she knows if she has her vest on, she's not going to go say hi to people unless I tell her to go say hi.
Wow. So besides yourself, and I mean, you're a success, and it's still work and still constant battle, but you're a success of what you've created. Do you have any other stories of other veterans who have benefited from this charity and kind of what is going on with them, if you're allowed to say?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of success with our veterans, and mainly the biggest thing I hear back from everybody is I got my life. I get to be a participant in my own life instead of just being there. Like they actually get to participate. They get to go to the birthday parties with the family. They get to go. They get to go to the fair. They get to go to all the things that they avoided. One of the things we're going to try to do this year coming up, we just brought on an amazing event coordinator, and we're going to try to get with USANA and try to get a trailer up to USANA and just kind of mark off an area so military and first responders that struggle being around a lot of people can be in a smaller confined area with like-minded people. So something we kind of want to push this year.
Cool.
This year coming up, just to try, because that's one of the things that's hard. Going to events. I love my concerts, but it gets very overwhelming being shoulder to shoulder with people all day long, all night. So
I think
it's tough.
I don't suffer from any of that, but even me just going to Disneyland or a concert or anything like that, I have a hard time.
Yeah.
Disneyland specifically.
Yeah, I love Disneyland, but that's probably the only place I'll tolerate that. That's about it.
How has your charity evolved? Like, I know where it is, but what do you foresee happening here in the future? Do you continue just doing the same thing, or how are you doing more outreach? Obviously going to USANA and things like that, but you talked about maybe going to the National Guard and partnering up with them.
Yeah. So we're trying to get in with the National Guard to talk to soldiers returning home from deployment. Currently, the way it sits now is when you come home from deployment, before you get to see your family or anything like that, you're put into a room. You've got an officer, non-commissioned officer, or an officer standing in front of you, giving the same PowerPoint that they give to everybody. So I don't want to say that they're not passionate about it, but once you've been gone from your family for 6 months, a year, 18 months, you're not really listening to that person
at all.
you're just sitting there and you're checking off a box to go to the next station because that's what you have to do to get home. What we're hoping to get done is get through these steps, because once you come home, you're still going to the armory, you're still meeting wherever you got to meet. Let's have the meetings then after you've come home, you've seen your family that you've missed, and then have someone who's tattooed up sleeves, someone who's been there, someone who's lived it, someone who knows what's going to be coming. And I think that's going to hit home with the veterans a lot more than just a guy in a uniform that maybe hasn't even deployed, that doesn't know.
Because you're living real life now, and they don't realize the stuff that they might be going through or about to go through. So I think it's really, really smart that you're going to do that. I
and
hope
it's
it
not
works
to
out
say
for you.
that the information that they're giving out is wrong, because
No.
what they're telling you is exactly true. But when it's coming from someone maybe didn't deploy, someone who hasn't lived it, and they're going to try to tell you what's going to happen and what to expect, it doesn't sink in as much
Well,
as
also,
when you have a conversation with someone and you're like, hey, I'm battling with this, and they're like, hey, you know what, I've been struggling with that too, so I'm not alone, I'm not crazy.
and when you come home, just like you're in college or in high school. I remember the teacher, professor talking. You look over and like, oh, there's 1 minute left. And you start putting things away, and they keep talking, and it's the class is supposed to be over, and they keep talking. You're like, dude, I'm not listening. We're done.
Yep.
And I can easily see like, oh, da 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 da, and then all of a sudden now they're struggling. Now what? So I really like your idea. I think that's very wise.
Well, it's finding the like the relation point. Like if you feel like you have to sit somewhere and listen to somebody, there's a difference between if you feel like you're sitting down and like you want to listen to what somebody has to say, because then you're invested, then your interest is piqued, and then you're like, this dude's been where I've been. Like he has sat in this seat. He knows, like you're, like you said, for you, it's like he's where I'm supposed to be going to next. So that I like that idea. I think it's smart. I mean, it's somewhat similar to kind of why Tyson and I decided to start this podcast, because it was like there's so many men's issues out there that no one talks about, and so we're like, kind of like when you talked about with your podcast, we wanted to give it a place of like, hey, we have these similar interests between just father, husband, brother, son, bearded guy, non-bearded guy, all this stuff, and just like, this is our experience. If it helps you, it's great, versus just something that you hear that isn't really sticking. So I think that's an amazing idea.
So kind of moving forward, you have an amazing charity, and you've placed 22 dogs, and you do a couple other things besides that. You want to explain to them what else you do?
Yeah. So
occasionally, I know it's not your primary objective.
Right. So we have in the past, we've had veterans that were battling with alcoholism, with substance abuse, and mental health, right? So
trying to numb the pain that they're going through.
Right. Then I was drinking back before I started the podcast. I was drinking about a fifth of whiskey a night.
Wow.
And then I'd wash that down with about 6 to 12 beers. And I'd get up in the morning after sleeping maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours of sleep, go to work, come home, do it all over again. Over and over and over. And it's just a vicious cycle. So we've had people in Oregon that was struggling with alcoholism, and we got him a bed into some treatment. And during that time, he had just got evicted from his apartment, and he had nowhere to put any of his stuff. So we contacted the local motorcycle club out there, the CVMA, Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association. Reached out to them out there in Oregon, and they helped him get all of his stuff out of his house. Put it into storage that we paid for the storage. And while he was in there, he didn't have a lot of bills. He had he just got evicted, and all he had left was his truck. So we helped him make his truck payment. But, and that all comes down to what we have been donated, because we are 100%, we are a 501c3. So we are a legitimate nonprofit. Everything, all of my board members are, just donating time. Nobody gets a paycheck. Nobody takes a cut. Nobody takes a percentage. The only thing that ever goes when we have money donated, if we put it on an event and we have to pay $1,000 to the venue, obviously it comes out of what the nonprofit is had come in to pay for some of that stuff, but we try to limit all of it. We try to just have the nonprofit self-sustain to where we're not paying anything out of pocket. We're not struggling, but we've done that a couple of times with different veterans, different circumstances, but kind of along the same lines. And we hit it so hard the first 2 years we had. So my board is made up of all combat veterans, all and one first responder, firefighter, all battle PTSD, all minds go everywhere. We were all gung ho and going, and unfortunately, we had a couple of members burn out. So they've taken a step back. They've taken a knee to kind of get their mental health back in line, what they need to do. So our nonprofit obviously is going to slow down when you go from 12 people to 4 people. It kind of slows down on what we can do. So we're starting to ramp back up. We've got some amazing things planned. We're hoping to do a golf tournament in 24, a couple of motorcycle rallies, some concerts. We've teamed up with Warrior Risen Ranch up in Morgan. Veteran himself, his children are veterans, and they've got an amazing self-sufficient ranch up there in Morgan that is just beautiful. And we can go up there. We volunteer up there. We help them do fences, help them run cattle,
That's
whatever
cool.
they need up there. And we have veterans go up there. We have groups go up there to just kind of get away, turn off the cell phone, be with their families, just unclick out of society.
Yeah, I like Morgan too. East Canyon's pretty.
Yeah.
So kind of going on with, you only have 4 people, you're ramping up again. You have more, but just 4 board members. Is it possible that you can get volunteers? And if you can, how do they volunteer? What do you have them usually do? Stuff like that.
So on our website, that we still need to revamp, there's a place on there, a tab on there that says volunteer. Fill it out. It gets sent to us. For the volunteers, we vet a little bit. We want to make sure you want to do it for the right reasons. And it just to help out in events, whether it's making shirts that we're going to be selling at the events, sitting at booths at the little city days that we have around here, like Hooper Days and Clearfield, Clinton Days. We'll go there, we'll set up a booth, and mainly we sell out of all of our apparel that we take there, but it's not that.
I'm going to buy some.
We have the military and first responders sit down and talk to us. We have the family members sit down and talk to us and say, hey, my son or my brother or my sister, whoever is struggling and he's going through the same things, and what can you suggest? And so I send everybody to our Facebook page, the I.G.Y.6.22 Facebook page. There's a private group in there, and it's only military and first responders only. So you can go in there and you can talk about your struggles, talk about some of your problems, and there's people in there that are going to reply and let you know that you're not alone.
Dang, that's amazing.
That's amazing.
I really like that. Yeah, you definitely for those who don't know this, Copper Johns is actually going to be donating a portion of all of its sales to I Got Your 622 in the month of November, and then December 2nd we're having a beard competition at the barbershop, and everything. We're going to have silent auctions from different companies. We're going to have the barbers are there, obviously they're judges. But the beard competitions and it's a donation only. We have lots of people already messaging us for food. Like there's a guy who's a professional, Brent Hansen. He's a professional barbecuer, and he's
really?
like, hey, he's going to donate all that. He's like,
No way.
He's like, that's my thing. That's my donation to the charity and all that, the cause and everything. We just need to know how many people are coming. There's a lot of people who want to help. And so have you ever thought about maybe going to Weber State, Utah State, BYU, Utah, and maybe talk to the ROTC, maybe some of the sociology people, and just ask maybe for interns and maybe to help you with that stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I drive truck over the road. One thing I found when I was really battling my PTSD and my depression was going for a drive. I'd get in the car, turn on the radio, and I'd just drive. And doing that now, I drive truck now. I sold my company. I left my job, nice GS11 job on base. Never drove a semi before. Got my CDL on a Friday, and I went to South Carolina and picked up a semi on Monday.
Wow.
Learned how to. And now I drive. I drove the last year. I've been driving for 18 months now, and I've got my warranty on my truck is up at 250,000 miles from when I bought it. I'm 30,000 miles away from that warranty being up.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that's funny is I similar story, very different at the same time. So I have found out 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with pretty severe bipolar. I was working in the insurance industry for years. Left that, moved here to Utah, started driving truck. I was doing dirt trucking, side dumps, did that for a long time. So there's that. I noticed your Freightliner shirt when we talked last week. I drove Freightliners. I drove Freightliners for a couple years. And then I got into driving pulling triples for UPS for a little while, which those road trains, we call them wiggle wagons. They just sit there. You've seen them. And so there's kind of that connection there. I could tell you drove truck. And then same thing, dude. Like I just, Tyson's over here like, wow, 200, like, dude, you can hit hundreds of thousands of miles in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
And so I have a similar thing where I don't drive truck very much anymore, but I help my brother and I run an excavation company and I manage the trucking side. And just yesterday I had to cover for one of my drivers and it's just, 18 speed Peterbilt. I was doing some heavy haul, one of our big machines. And I'm like, man, I miss being up high. I miss just, slamming gears. But then at the same time, I also like driving my pickup truck around in the air conditioning and telling our guys what to do. So, but no, I totally jive with that. Like podcasts, books on tapes, just, the music that just, for me, I'm sure it might be similar for you, but I listen a lot of the, the heavy metal stuff calms me down when I'm driving. It just gets all the right feelings in the right place. So I totally
by
jive
heavy
with that.
metal. He means like Celine Dion, Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Nickelback.
No, it's the ones where like I'm driving and my playlist comes through and it's like while we're driving with the kids and my wife, she's like, how do you even know what they're saying? I'm like, I don't know, you just feel it.
See, and I don't listen to music unless I'm on my motorcycle. I really don't listen to music much anymore.
Sure.
It gets in my head and I start thinking about, I overanalyze the songs.
Oh,
so I'm
yeah.
like, okay, why does this resonate with me? Okay, this has nothing to do with me, but I'm putting myself in the position. So I listen to podcasts, self-help books.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I like that.
I do too.
But if I'm on my motorcycle, oh yeah, I've got whatever.
Yeah.
I've got 90s rap. I've got 90s country. I've got.
Oh yeah.
Dude, 90s was the best.
Rock.
It was the best. Logan doesn't know. Logan.
What do you mean? I was raised in the 90s. I'm the middle of 7 kids. Like my sister is your age, so it's like I still had all of that influence. I'm the tail end of the millennials. Okay, I'm still on the good side of the generation.
So, what are some of the biggest challenges you're facing running a charity?
A lot of you organizations out there that are out there doing great things and trying to help your veterans. The biggest problem that they're having is finding the veterans. The military and first responders, there's a big stigma out there that it's weak if you speak. So I struggled for a long time and trying to, I didn't tell my chain of command that I was struggling, because if I tell them, hey, I'm struggling with some mental health stuff, well, now I'm not mission capable. Now I'm compromised. So you see that with police officers, you see that with firefighters, you see that with EMS. They can't say nothing, because if they say something, are they going to lose their job? Or, now that's another stress. Are their brothers going to look at them like, oh, I can't count on this person to do what they're supposed to do? And it's not the case, because most of those people are struggling too, but they're also saying, well, I can't say something because it'll make me weak. It'll make me a wimp. Whatever the stigma is that they've built in their own mind because of what society. And I think it's gotten better. You see it on TV. They talk about, there's a lot of mental health talk now, which is making it more socially acceptable to not be okay. So that's really helped. But just finding the veterans. So that's one thing that we do also is, there's hunting outfits that are looking for veterans to go on a guided hunt. Well, they can't find people because people are ashamed that they're struggling. So that's been the biggest struggle, is finding the veterans to speak up and admit that they are battling some inner demons.
So is that, I don't want to sound, because I don't know. This is a genuine question. I don't want, is that more of a cultural thing within the military, or is that more cultural outside the military? Because in my mind, I as I've watched the military and I listen to the military, it's kind of like hush hush, but outside it's starting to get more relevant. So hey, take care of yourself. And so if I feel like there's a lot of suicides in the military and stuff like that, and how can we, and how can maybe the government and the military make this aware, and instead of being a shameful thing, it's like, hey, dude, you saw some stuff and you heard some stuff. Let's figure this out. Like, how can we get the military and the civilian side on the same scope, so that, hey, this is normal to feel this way after what you've gone through?
So the military has actually done, in the last couple of years, they've actually taken a lot of steps to bring suicide awareness. Last year alone in Utah, our National Guard had the deadliest year, and I don't recall the total number of active military, but I want to say it was 10 to 12. And we're talking officer involved shootings. We're talking just domestic violence. We're talking, it gets out of hand, and people just don't. I mean, I've been blown out of Humvees from IED blasts, and I tell my leader, I'm like, hey, something's not right. Like, I can't see straight. You get hit upside the head with a magazine that says, get back to work, suck it up, buttercup. We're going on another mission. That's kind of the mindset. Now, this is 2004, 2005. Things have obviously changed since then. So I can't really speak on where we are now in the military for active, but talking to people that are active duty still, they say it is getting better, but it's still people that haven't been in combat trying to teach people that have been in combat. So the connection just isn't being made fully at the levels that I think that it could be reached.
Dude, that's nuts. So it's sad because you don't realize, because this stuff is not said out loud.
No,
it's not made public, and so you don't know what's going on until we talk to Brian from I.G.Y.6, and he has these stories, and you're just like, how are we allowing this to happen? You know what I mean? Like, how are we not allowing help for our fallen, and for the families, and for those who have been affected? My neighbor.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. When I first got my PTSD diagnosis, I went to the VA, told them I was struggling, and they had me on so many different medications. I didn't know if I was going up, if I was going down. I'm on 4 different medications, one to take me up, one to take me down, some to level me off. And I felt like a zombie. Like I quit taking them because I didn't like the way I felt. I have young kids at the time. I can't be popping Ambien and all these other things at night going, and when my wife is at work and I'm responsible for the kids at night, and then I'm zonked out ordering stuff on Amazon that I don't have the money to pay for. I stopped taking all my medication and just said, all right, well, 1.5 to 2 hours of sleep a night is my life. And I did that for so many years because I wouldn't take their medication.
But you were self-diagnosing, you were self-medicating through alcohol, it sounds like, and that's not a way to live either.
Nope. But doing that, I could go to work every day.
Yeah.
I could function. So when I was on the medication, I was getting written up at work. I was messing up. I was irritable. I was snapping at my boss. It was not a good thing. I was snapping at my children. I didn't like who I was.
No, I know that.
I liked myself as an alcoholic better than I did on medication?
My neighbor was a Navy SEAL, and he was in the first war, Gulf War, and he is the only one that came back. And we didn't know any of this. And his wife came over to us because he is the nicest, most kind person you've ever met. And she came over to me and to our family and just said, "Hey, just me and Candace, my wife." And she goes, "Hey, sometimes he's here, sometimes he's not. Don't ever let your kids alone with him." It's like he's not going to do anything. It's just, but when he's not here, you know what I mean? Because he'll all of a sudden be talking to you, and then he's gone. He's back there. And I had a neighbor across the street. He's since moved, and he was very upset because he felt like he was staring at his wife, because you had the steps up here, and then it's kind of down, and then you had the fence, but he's up here, so it's looking like he's looking at his wife in the backyard. And I'm like, nope. He's not looking at her. He's just not there. And it's amazing. The pain that he went through, and he wouldn't talk about it. The only thing he ever said to his wife, and his wife told us, is just the blood. There was so much blood. And I wish he would know. He got a dog, and it wasn't trained well, and they had to give him away. And I felt so bad. And knowing that this is here now, it would be so beneficial for someone like him, because he couldn't he couldn't go to church. He would not go to church with his whole family because he couldn't deal with the people in the enclosed area and stuff like that. And it's just like, holy cow, man.
And I want to give a huge shout out to your barber, Destiny. She could tell I was a little bit nervous today, and she's like, "Hey, what way do you need to sit? My ex-husband was military. I know that you have a thing with your back has to be a certain way. Let's put, do you need your back this way so you can see the door, you can see everything?" Huge shout out to her. She made a very initially uncomfortable experience very, very comfortable. So huge shout out to your people there.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, she's the Destiny's who takes care of my hair and beard as well. So we love Destiny. That's really cool. I didn't realize when you were getting your hair cut there that she was taking care of you like that. That's cool.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's the little stuff that lets guys like you and lets men and women who've been through what you've been through. It's almost kind of like the "I got your six" mentality of kind of like I see and validate what you've been through, and there's nothing weak or soft in saying stuff like this, because I know in today's day and age, words like "oh, I validate your feeling" gets this like snowflake connotation to it, but there is very real world applications to that type of language where I see and validate what you've been through. Like, what can I do to make this more comfortable for you so that you can be present and not be like what Tyson said with his neighbor. Like, you can be like, get yourself lost in your memories. And one thing is I'm not going to share all the details because it's not really mine to share, but both my grandfathers served. My mother's father, he died when I was just a baby. And then my dad's dad, he only passed about a year or two ago, but we never heard anything from Grandpa. He died when he was 96. And when I was probably 17 or 18, I was like, "Hey, Grandpa, you never talk about your service." And he's like, "Okay, well, if I'm going to tell you one, I'm going to tell you the best one." He told me this story. I was floored. Because you would have never thought that this old man that I've been around my entire life up until this point saw and did what he saw and did. And now as an adult, I'm like, I've never been through anything remotely like that, and I know I never will. And I'm like, how are you funcking? Like, it's a crazy story to tell, but it's just it blows my mind.
You take that and then you bring it to our home, to our soil, and that's what our EMS is dealing with every day.
Yeah,
our police officers. I mean, if you're dealing with a police officer, generally it's on your worst day. If you're dealing with paramedics, it's on your worst day. If you're dealing with firefighters, it's on your worst day. So, and they have to come right home and try to shed all of that and to be like, "Okay, let's do homework with the kids. Let's make dinner. Let's do this. Let's do this." And then when do they get to decompress? So we come off mission and we can sit in our hooches and just BS and tell whatever stories and kind of decompress that way. But who do they decompress to? They don't decompress to their spouses. I mean,
you can't.
Hey, so I just came up on a scene and seen X, Y, and Z with a 3-year-old child or a 7-year-old child, or who do you talk to? you can't talk to your people you're sitting next to in the truck, because now you're worried, is this going to get back to my supervisor? Am I going to have to go on paid leave? I'm not going to be able to do my job anymore. But this is the only time I feel like I'm doing what I was meant to do. So, I mean, we've gotten a couple of dogs to, we're trying to get some dogs to some firehouses. So, and so that way there can be a dog at the fire station with the EMS. So if they pull up to a scene, and, they can have that animal there to calm down the victims or the whatever's happening around the scene. So we're doing that. It's just that it's not enough.
No.
And every day I wake up that I'm not doing enough. I know I got to do more. But at the end of the day, I have to take a step back and go, we can only do what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't do what we do without our great support we've had from our community. Every event we've had, every booth we've been to, everything we've done, we've just had amazing support from the community. And that's what's helped all of this.
Can I ask a weird question? And and not be offended or anything. Just because I'm a huge proponent of therapy, like I'm hands down, it's helped me. It's helped my daughter. It's helping my son. Have you ever reached out to therapists and say, hey, will you take one client for free? Will you take one client for free? Will you take one client? And just multiple, and maybe that's something that we can do for you as volunteers. Like, have you ever thought about doing something? It looks like you have.
So I have done therapy, and unfortunately, this is a grim reality for those military people that are trying to get the courage to seek mental help through the VA.
Mm-hmm.
My experience was, I have a VA counselor. I unload everything on them, and when your counselor starts crying, now you're going, oh, what? You're supposed to be here to help me. Okay, session's done. I unloaded everything. I dug down into all of the stuff that's been eating me. Now all of this is fresh to the surface. I go to my next appointment. I have a new counselor. Start over.
Yeah.
Go to my next session. I have a new counselor. Start over. I never had the same counselor twice in the 4 years I tried to do therapy. So what do? Quit. It's not worth it.
It's not worth it saying the same thing over and over and over for them to get to know you.
So then I found a therapist 2 years ago that got me doing EMDR therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you what, that is a blessing and a curse at the same time. Because now not only, so when you start going through it, the best way I can explain it is if they're having you go down memory lane, right?
Mm-hmm.
And usually you're moving your eyes back and forth, looking at pictures. That was too much for me. So I had paddles in my hand that would vibrate left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. So I'm constantly, like, my eyes are closed. I'm looking left and right. When it vibrates left, I'm looking left, vibrates right. So you're it takes your brain, and you're traveling down the interstate, and then you pull off and exit. And now this is an event that's plays in your mind over and over again. And you're watching it like you're in the balcony of a movie theater, and you're seeing the event. So you can see that how everything unfolded. And it really helped me to go, okay, in this situation, there literally was nothing I could have done different to change this outcome. Because I've seen the whole thing unfold, versus in my head, if I'd have done this, if only I'd have done this, I didn't do this right. If I'd have done this person would still be here today. So it gave me a good perspective, and it just kind of helped clear a lot of confusion up in my brain. So I'm a big proponent of EMDR therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But life happened, started driving truck.
Yeah.
Can't really do counseling.
See, and I do it over teleconference now.
Yeah, and I've tried it. I get
it's not the
too
same.
sidetracked. Sidetracked, and then I'm like,
It's almost like if there were veterans that got in, like, that became therapists, is like, would be such a huge answer to some of these problems. Like, guys who have been there, but then also have the training and the counseling skill to like help, like kind of going back to what we were talking about, like, you know, the come home conferences and the come home, like, debriefing, so to speak, like somebody who's been there, like, hey, let me help you work through this, but I also have the skills and the tools to help you. And
so in doing the podcast, I found that there was a vet center in Ogden.
Yeah.
I never knew there was a vet center in Ogden. That was a
over by
combat vet
Planet
center.
Fitness, right?
I think that's the VA. It's in North Ogden. There's a combat vet center.
Oh,
and
okay.
they are combat veterans, and they are counselors.
Oh, there you go.
It definitely helps. But nobody tells you that in your units. They don't tell you to go look here. They don't tell you to go look here, because the funding is different for the vet center as it is for the VA. So those people are fighting for the funding from the state and the government. So one's not going to advertise the other.
Yeah.
So it's just you have to know where to look, and so that's where the nonprofit has been great, because we've had people who their loved ones have taken their life, and they don't know what to do. They don't know where their benefits are. They don't know where to look, and the units aren't really helping too much, because if the family doesn't know about it, government's probably not going to pay on it. So they've reached out to us, and we have people who are very, very well versed in what to do, and they're like, hey, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And we have people that are like, hey, I want to file a claim for my VA. Okay, well, we can't do that for you, because legally we can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to do X, Y, and Z to get this started. And once you get steps 1 through 3 done, give us a call, and we'll help you to guide your way through 4, 5, and 6, and then 7, 8, and 9. And then you're going to get rejected. So this is what we're going to tell you to kind of work your way through. But we can't give advice, but we kind of help walk them through the process, because it's a hard process. It's a very frustrating process. But
just like anything that's with the government,
right?
Right.
So just say bureaucracy runs deep. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I kind of wanted to go back really quick. So you were talking about bringing that home with you. You were talking about first responders. You were talking about EMTs, firefighters. You drive over the road. You drive truck. I saw a pretty nasty accident that I still see every now and then. Pretty gruesome. 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Saw it happen right there. Involved a couple motorcycles. It put into perspective when you said that, because my line of work, I get frustrated. We work in excavation. I get angry. Stuff happens. And there's that tale as old as time, like, oh, dad bringing his frustration home from work. And in that moment, when you're talking about that, I'm like, man, I got nothing to complain about. Like my frustrations are a drop in a bucket. My pain home from work is a drop in the bucket. I never had that perspective given to me of like EMS, first responders, firefighters, police, even vets, like what you guys don't bring home or what you do bring home. It blew my mind when you were saying that. And so to the people who are listening to this podcast, that, all these guys, we're there. We have stuff that we bring home that sucks. Like, the emotions, the frustrations, whether it's on your level, Brian, or on a much smaller level, like maybe mine and Tyson's.
But one thing I would tell you, don't minimize yours.
Sure.
Because but your frustration is your frustration. My frustration is my frustration. My struggles are mine and yours are yours. It doesn't make yours less than mine, because it's not combat related.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that the military and first responder community, we struggle with, because somebody needs it more than I do. Somebody's worse than I am. No, I needed it. I didn't know I needed it. They need it. As much as their life matters to their loved ones, as much as they're saying the next person that they know needs it more than they do, because it'll help them and their family. It'll help you and your family just the same. You need it too.
Yeah.
So don't ever minimize it and say, well, you've done this or I haven't done it on this level. Hey, your trauma is your trauma. Your struggles are your struggles, and they're every bit as real as and important as mine are.
That speaks to your character, and I think that's why I think Tyson and I clicked with you so well so quickly, is because guys like you and men and women like you, is you're not that's why you guys, I think, struggle with what you do, is because you look to yourself last. Like you're constant. I mean, you know, the term, thank you for your service. You guys are literally military and first responders. You guys are serving the country, you're serving the community. And so just that statement alone just is, you know, it's another, you know, stack on your side of the scale, just showing just the inherent goodness that, you know, is coming from you guys. So I really appreciate that meant a lot for you to say that. So thank you. But it's at the same time, you know, I wish there was more that I could do, because I'm a guy that I like to try to talk things out. I'm like, you know, like guys, we like to fix stuff, right?
But you're doing it. You're doing it with this show.
Yeah. Well, that's what we hope to do.
You're normalizing something that's been taboo for so long. So you're bringing it to the forefront. And I don't know if you guys have 100 followers or you have 100,000 or 1 million followers, but all you have to do is affect one person's life, and what you guys are doing is, it's all worth it. And the way you guys are growing, you're helping more than you know. So keep doing what you do. Like I'm just trying to start catching up, because I had heard of Copper Johns, and I'll tell you when. It was about a month ago. I walked into Golden Spike Harley, and I seen some product in there, and I was like, I need some beard balm. And I smelled the cologne, and I was like, Salt City. I like that smell. So I bought the balm, I bought the cologne, I bought the oil, and then lo and behold, just the other day, you guys, they're like, oh, Copper John. And I didn't even click on my mind. I was telling my wife about it, you know, our conversation, and then doing the recording the other day, and looked on the counter, and there it is, Copper John.
That's
on
cool.
my counter. And I went, this is freaking awesome. You know what?
Cool.
It just came full circle.
Yeah, everything for a reason.
I was thinking that same thing. I'm like, there's so many. I mean, we call it coincidence, call it, you know, the universe, whatever you want to call it. There's so many things like that happen. I think that's just super cool, because I mean, Tyson, I remember when you were launching the Harley campaign last year.
So do I.
So that's so cool that you're like, I walked into a Harley, and it's like, hey, that was one of the Harley scents. Like that's so cool. And then I remember, Tyson, was, you know, when you called me last week, you're like, hey, what do you think about Brian? We're thinking, you know, here's his charity. I'm like, dude, let's do it. And then you're like, oh, I actually already knew about you guys. So like, it's just that.
But I didn't know it was a local company. I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
I didn't know about you guys. I didn't know what you guys. And then after, we have a mutual friend, Tyson and I, and then I started looking, because I got off of social media. It's been 16, 17 months now. I will scroll through TikTok and get my daily laughs, and that's it. I don't get on Facebook. I don't get on Instagram. My daughter she's on the board. My daughter's on the board, and she handles all of our social media. So she's about to be very, very busy in 2024.
Sure, cool.
But I started looking in. I told my wife, I said, hey, pull up this on Facebook. Let me go through. And I started looking. I was like, this is awesome. I can't believe I bought this at Harley, and here we are.
Yeah. And then speaking of social media, you were watching us in the barbershop today, making fools of ourselves, making some TikToks. When you said your wife, you told your wife to pull up Facebook, I was like, hopefully you didn't go too deep, because you'd see some really dumb stuff that we've done.
That's all right.
There's a time and a place for everything, and so there's a time to be serious and time to let back, and so we try to do everything just to you know, have fun but also be serious at the same time.
And that's free advertising, and it's the best advertising, because find me 5 people in a room that aren't on their phones all day scrolling through something, and if you can advertise on there for free, you got to have something witty that catches your attention. And some of the things I've seen from you guys, it definitely catches your attention and garners views. So you're killing it. Keep doing it.
I use it on my own personal TikTok, not just on the Copper John stuff and my TikTok and Instagram. I use it to try to normalize and talk more about, you know, my bipolar, or like being a bigger dude, or like things like that. Just normalizing like stuff that people normally hush, or they're afraid about, or they're self-conscious about. And so Like, yeah, because I mean, there's so much negativity out there, man. And I mean, and you don't realize this just drives it home that much more. Like, you don't know what someone's going through.
At all.
And so I always say all the time when everyone says like, oh, I got off social media, I'm like, good for you. I legitimately mean that, but it's like, I'm in so deep, I don't know if I could. but but so that's why Tyson and we really try to take our social footprint and be like, hey, we want to be an impact for either laughs or, you know, like compassion, or just like, hey, let's some, you know, positive information, because there's too much crap. There's too much crap out there.
I agree.
So I teach a youth church group, and we were talking about trials and tribulations and things like that. And just to kind of go full circle, what you were talking about, like, hey, your trials are your trials. Don't like make light of them. And I told the kids, they range from 12 and 13 and 14 years old. I'm like, guys, your problems are real. Your problems are serious. Your problems should not be taken for, you know, like, you need to take those serious, and we're here to help you. Sure, I've gone through some of the things, but there's some things I will never go through that you are going to go through due to social media, due to all the things that are surrounding you. Like pornography is so prevalent now, and bullying is so prevalent now compared to, you know, we could go home and we're safe. Not anymore. And so there's a lot of things, and I just looked at them like, you are loved, and your problems are serious, and so don't ever let anyone tell you they're not. And so it's very important to me that people understand that, and especially our kids, like my kids. I'm like, no, what you're going through is serious. Like, you're feeling this isn't a pretend feeling. So let's make sure. I really liked what you said, and so it really hit home for me. And we're hitting up the hour mark. So we don't want to take advantage of your time. However, I do want to ask one more question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've talked about some serious things, and I really, really liked it, and some things that you are doing as a charity and you as an individual. So for anyone who's listening right now and will be listening in the future, what would you like to convey about the listeners of the importance of supporting veterans, and not necessarily just your charity, but charity and all, and the work that this charity does? Like, what would you like to convey that we might not have asked?
I think what you guys are promoting is 100% the right thing. Kind of just be there. It's kind of hard to say, hey, reach out to your veteran neighbor and say, hey, I'm here to talk if you need to talk. You kind of got to wait until that opportunity presents itself, whether it's after a couple of whiskeys, after, you know, whether it's, you just have to find the right time, because otherwise they're going to be like, hey, why is this person trying to intrude? What is their objective? Are they trying to get something from me? That's just how our minds work. We automatically go to the worst case scenario, and it's nothing bad to anybody else. It's just, you just have to be mindful for that. But the best thing you can do is, if you know a military or first responder, just say, hey, I just heard of a nonprofit on Facebook. You can find them on Facebook, on Instagram, and go there. They talk about whatever personal stuff, and it's only military and first responders only. Like, spouses can't get in there. We have a spouses page. It grew traction for a minute, but the spouses, they struggle too. And that's one thing that we're trying to include, is different events for families, because the spouses, they're learning how to deal with their new veteran once they come home, because they're not the same. And now they think that they're doing something wrong because their veteran is checked out. And so they can the wives and the husbands can talk and say, hey, this is what we found. This is what we found that helps. And so we're just trying to build a community. So refer them to the Facebook group, and you just go in to the private groups, and it'll say military first responder. They'll ask a couple of questions, just so we can only vet what we can vet, right? So if someone says, hey, I'm military, and they're not, we're not looking for a DD-214 or documentation. We go off of the honor system. So as far as we know, everybody that's in that group are who they say they are. But it just gives another place for people to say, hey, I'm struggling with here. A big one with veterans and PTSD is ED. I won't get into, I know it's a PG-13 show, but that you can talk about it in this group, and someone says, hey, I've been battling that too, but I did X, Y, and Z, and that brought up my testosterone. I got my testosterone checked, and my levels were 12.
What? 12?
Wow.
12. So now you start putting things into perspective of, okay, this makes sense why I'm doing X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So, you start.
So everyone understands what 12 means, because we have female listeners and they might not understand, or men also. It's like you should be between like 600 to 800 at your age right now, and 12 is like, it's like you're
non-existent.
Yeah, it's like it's not there.
Yeah.
So you're depressed, you're tired, you have no drive for anything, and you start to gain weight. Like, that is crazy low.
And a lot of veterans we're finding are very, very low testosterone. So
I wonder why.
We're like, it's just your body, your stress, you've kind of just shutting everything down as a defense mechanism. So we're finding different counselors, different doctors that treat testosterone in different ways. And so it's a great community to be a part of, just because you're going to get even if you get in there and you don't say a word, you're going to see people communicating. You're going to be like, oh, let me message this person because he said something, but I don't really want it to be out in the open, because for me, my problems weren't real. They were just all in my head until the Malinois Foundation made me write a biography about myself.
Oh.
So once I put everything on paper, it's there. It's real. It's real once it's on paper. And that's when it sunk into me that I needed to start making changes. So when we have veterans and first responders looking for a dog, our way to vet them is they have to write a biography, not their spouse, not their mom or dad or friend. They have to write it in a first person to tell us about you, because until you put it down on paper, you're not ready to make a change. And we can't help you if you're not ready to help yourself. We can't do it for you. We will match you 100% of your effort. If you start off running and then stop, we're going to keep reaching out to you. We're going to keep loving on you, but we're not going to do it for you. Because once you're ready, you'll do it, and we'll be right there with you.
Interesting. I like that. It's amazing what conversations can do, man. You just start talking.
Absolutely.
You just start talking to people, talking with people. Like you said, it still stuck with me after you said it the other day. It's like, it's not weak to speak.
Yep.
Man, like so many.
That's kind of our motto, is it's not weak to speak.
The thing that I noticed, working with someone literally right next to me, about 5 feet away, who has severe PTSD, he was very shut off when we met. And I knew what was going on because it was told to me and all this kind of stuff, but not, very, very just, hey, this, don't take this personal, all this kind of stuff. But it was nothing intrusive or anything like that. But now I've been working with him for almost 2 years now. He has opened up and we've become real friends. It wasn't forced upon us. It's like we literally, like, I just went, unfortunately, to his daughter's funeral, and it was really hard, but he invited me. Like, we're genuine friends now. And now he's opening up and telling me a lot of the things that he had to go through, and they're not mine to tell. And some of these are,
and that's the biggest thing I would tell anybody. If someone's confiding in you, there's 90% of the things I've done, my wife doesn't know, my kids don't know. And it's more of me thinking I'm protecting them. And it's not that I need to protect them. It's just, I'm probably scared of what their thought process will be. Will they look at me different? Will they treat me different? And, it's not their trauma to hold.
Yeah.
It's my trauma. I need to own my trauma. I can't pass my trauma on to other people, especially my loved ones, because it's not their burden to bear. It's my burden, and I can share my burden with my brothers, with my sisters that have been through it, and they can help guide me through the different ways that they've helped cope, and I can express, say, I've done this and it didn't help. I've done this and this and this, and it seems to work for me. Will it work for you? I don't know, but if it doesn't, let me call guy A through Z, and let's find one that clicks with you.
Yeah.
Because we've all found different things that work for us. So
I can see what you're saying about how guys, they don't need it. They've shut off. Like, he's all a man's a man and all that kind of stuff. And I can see what you're talking about, because it's really, how do you get to someone who just wants to take it themselves? And you can see they're frustrated. You can see that they're struggling, but they don't want to open up. And when he did open up,
huge weight off of his shoulder. I
Yeah,
guarantee you
and
could
he's a
see,
different
you could just
person
see
with
him.
me.
You could
Yeah.
just see the attentiveness, and then as soon as just a little bit comes out, you just see him.
Yeah.
Like
And then
I can breathe just that much more because I got a little bit off my chest.
And then when he came out, it was everything. And then now we talk about cool things, like not it's meaning
Right.
we've and he showed me some things on like in North Korea and South Korea, like the blue buildings that they meet, and he showed me about all the tunnels underneath. I'm like, what the crap? That's a thing.
Yep.
Like I've learned so much from him, and like he's really one of like an amazing friend, and I'm grateful for him and that he trusts me enough to be able to relate. But it was just I'm like, dude, no wonder. Like no wonder.
Yeah, if someone opens
Yeah.
up to you, the biggest advice I could give anybody is keep that to yourself. Don't share it with your
Sure.
spouse. Don't share. Keep it with yourself. Don't let them. So, I mean, me and my wife, we have a thing. If we're out in public and she can tell I'm starting to get a little agitated, rather than me say, hey, I'm struggling, or her saying, hey, are you okay? We've come up with, she's like, hey, I need to go outside and get some fresh air. Come with me.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I say it to me, I'm like, everybody's watching me. Everybody can see I'm struggling. If my wife says, hey, we need to go outside, I need some fresh air, they're like, oh, that he's doing what his wife said. That's what his job is. And we get outside and I can just breathe for a minute. I can recompose myself, and then we can go back in, or we decide we're going to go home.
Yeah.
So that's one technique. If there's someone out there struggling, kind of make sure your spouse is on board with it, but it kind of takes the onus off of you, and people understand it. I mean, I don't know if you guys are both married, but if your wife says, hey, we need to go outside for a minute, you're going outside for a minute.
It's true.
Yes. Well, that's so, dude, I'm so glad you have that. I mean, I'm glad you said that, because that, I mean, we talk about marriage issues and relationships and stuff here every now and then too. And I'm like legitimately happy that you have that support in your wife, that she can see that in you and she like takes that from you. It's just, I mean, it's a sign of just, true care and compassion on your wife's part. So, I mean, that we kind of go back to what you're saying of like, if someone shares something with you, like that can be, that could be universally applied. Like if, the same thing, like there's certain things me and my wife talk about, it does not leave us at all. There's certain things that Tyson and I have talked about that I haven't shared with other people, and the same thing with him. And so I think that when you get that, when you can find that trust factor in someone, whether it's a friend, a family member, a spouse, someone that you served with, or someone that served similarly, I think you really got to foster that relationship and hold it, close to your heart, and make an effort to not abuse it, because you don't.
Because I'm not going to give
that
someone a chance to do it to me twice.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you burn me once, shame on you, but you won't burn me twice.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like Logan, do you know what I'm talking about when I said my coworker? I've never talked to you once about it, right? And no one knows what I'm talking about. No one knows who I'm talking about, all that kind of stuff. And it's okay, because I have lots of coworkers that, but it's just no one needs to know anything. But it's amazing what these veterans and these first responders, what they can go through. And I'm grateful that you're doing this, man.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm so grateful for you guys' support. I'm so glad and so blessed that you guys reach out to me, and I'm looking forward to doing multiple events and things with you guys in the future.
Oh, this started as last week's episode. Tyson and I were talking about No Shave November. We obviously, that's kind of a thing for us, right? Beards and everything. And mid podcast, while we're recording it, we said, dude, we need to find a legitimate organization that we want to push, because behind No Shave November and, the awareness for cancer and men's mental health and things like that is you donate your funds you spend on grooming and shaving towards that. So we're like, hey, we need to find something to promote. And that's when Tyson called me after finding you. So the fact that we have you on literally the very next episode, I don't feel like is a coincidence at all. And the fact that we're like, no, this is going to go past November. Like this is a pairing that I think is something that we need to continue to work for. So with that, in kind of correlation with our last week's episode, if you guys who are listening, if you're looking for, whether it's No Shave November or just in general, or we've hit a soft spot in this episode, please go to I.G.Y.6.22.org. Right there on the front of the page, the first thing you'll see is the Donate Now button. Click it, go down there, and you will see another where you can go PayPal. There's a million different ways that you can donate. Anything helps. So I know I'm going to. I know Tyson's going to. We got a couple of different ways that we're going to work through this. But please, if you're looking for anywhere that your dollar is going to go to good use, please go to I.G.Y.6.22.org.
Yeah, and I just want to remind everybody, we do not keep anything for ourselves. If we say we just had an event that raised ungodful amount of money that I'd never in a million years would have thought that 60 motorcycles for this ride would have ever gained. But I mean, it provided 4 service dogs.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So everything that comes in is going right out to what we say it's going to. We don't hold on to money. What money we have left at the end of every year, we donate that to other nonprofits that, the Dog Training Elite, the 4 Paws for Patriots. So that way we're not just taking from them, we're giving back to them as well. So if they're going to scratch our back, we're going to scratch their back. So we try to end every year at a 0 balance and start fresh in the new year. And everything we earn that year is going to our military and first responders. Not a penny goes otherwise, unless it's, obviously for operating expenses that we have to do to run the nonprofit. But
yeah.
So those who are listening, please like and share this with everyone to get the word out about I.G.Y.6.22.org. And let's get the word out. And then again, December 2nd, a live beard competition where we're going to have raffles, silent auctions, and a fun beard contest. It's all for charity. It's all for Brian, his charity. And it's, as you can tell, it's a serious charity. It's a very enlightened charity, and it's going to help people. So I appreciate you joining us.
I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I loved this. This was great, Brian. Thank you. Even if you change one person's life, man, it's a major impact.
But yeah, everyone, thank you for listening, and go check out this podcast. Comes out Wednesday, right?
Yeah,
we're doing
this
Wednesday.
one. We're gonna have this one come out Wednesday, and then I will be off to Hawaii, and I will talk to you guys in a week and a half.
I'm going to Vegas.
Hey, good for you.
And I'm staying home. Thank you so much for listening, guys. It means the world to us. If you have a chance, please give us a 5-star review, as well as write something a little pretty in there so that we know that you know that we know that you care. Anyway, have a great day, guys. I can't do it.
Get out. I like that. You can't redo it without laughing. That was good.